You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 300 of the On Purpose Podcast. 300 episodes over 6 years strong, and it's our privilege and pleasure to show up with you each and every week to have this space in your life to get you thinking, get you moving, get you questioning, maybe hold you accountable to making sure we're getting the most out of this ride, to making sure we don't come up short on wherever it is we're headed. And I can't thank you enough for being part of the community, being part of the journey. Episode 300 means a lot. It's not just 6 years of longevity, of being around for 6 years, but episode 300 is frequency, right? Continuing to show up repeatedly, even maybe when sometimes the results weren't what we hoped for, what we wanted. You question things, you doubt things, but you just keep showing up. And that's, going way back to one of our questions we used to ask guests at the beginning was, what would your superpower be? And one of my superpowers, quite honestly, is tenacity and just showing up, just keeping after it. And eventually good things are going to happen when you believe in your process, you believe in your plans, and you keep going and have a strong sense of purpose. And that kind of leads us in to our special guest for episode 300. This is somebody that's really made an impact in my life by the work they do, the way they share it, and how he breaks down the research and the scientific facts into actionable steps. So this week we're excited to bring back for episode 300 a truly inspiring guest, Dr. Zach Mercurio. A renowned keynote speaker, researcher, and author, has dedicated his career to exploring the power of purpose, meaningful work, and the concept of mattering. His groundbreaking work, and I mean that truly, groundbreaking work, includes the books The Invisible Leader and his upcoming book, The Power of Mastering, has transformed leaders and organizations in the way they think about creating cultures of significance. And we're going to talk a lot this week about mattering, and I hope you sit with it and don't be in a rush. Don't put this one on 1.5 just to get through it to say you listen. Slow it down. Listen to what Zach and I talk about. Listen to the concepts he has and the stories it relates, and make sure, in a world that seems like it's lost its mind at times, that our community is a place that people know they matter, that they know we're going to show up because we know we matter. And when we show up, we're going to make sure other people seen, heard, and know that they matter. So thank you for being here for episode 300. It's a pleasure to have you, and welcome to the show again for our third time, the one and only Zach Mercurio. The Tactical Harmony Podcast is hosted by Rebecca Fitzsimmons, a former NCIS special agent turned holistic leadership coach and mindset strategist. Drawing on nearly 20 years of experience empowering high-achieving professionals to break barriers and lead with purpose, Rebecca shares tried and true strategies and actionable insights to help you excel in today's fast-paced world. If you're ready to lead with impact and create harmony in the chaos, the Tactical Harmony Podcast is for you. Available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or check it out at tacticalharmony.com or in the show notes below. Zach, one of my favoriteest human beings on the planet Earth. Welcome back for episode 300, my friend. We've made it. 300 episodes, 6 years of trying to make sure we show up and put smiles on people's faces. How are you doing today?
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be having this conversation. And I remember when we were sitting down in person for the first conversation that we had on this podcast.
Yeah.
And a lot's changed, but a lot hasn't changed. So it's good to be back.
Well, we keep showing up. That hasn't changed. We both show up and we both continue to believe in our work and that there's an underlying purpose of why we do. What has changed is I was actually getting ready for this, and I told you in episode 200 I listened to 100, which I never listen to my episodes. So then for this one, I thought I should listen to 200 again, because if it worked, why would I mess with success? I got you back.
Yeah.
And you were gracious enough to call our first meeting in our studio, which studio is a very leisurely use of the word.
Well, you had microphones, you had equipment, and you had a table.
We
Whether or not any of it worked
We had
It's
lights
beside the
too.
question, but it looked like a studio to me. So you did a good job.
Yeah, it was big time back then, big time. Dude, I'm so proud of you, man. And I want to tell you how amazing your work is. Not just that you're doing it, but you're sharing it. And then the people that I know that get to share it and the ripple effect you're creating by studying something that's so important in today's world, which is purpose and then leading into mattering and making sure that the humans around us, the ones we interact with every day, know they actually matter to somebody.
Yeah. I mean, there is, I don't think there's any more powerful feeling than knowing that your presence and your absence means something to just one other person. I mean, that's the essence of being human.
Yeah. And what a subtle, what I love about it is it's subtle. It takes no money, no extra training, no advanced degrees in anything to show up and just care about the people that your eyes lay upon, that you randomly meet. Just care, whether it's a greeting,
Right.
a follow up question, not letting somebody off the hook when they say, yeah, I'm good, but you could tell they don't really mean they're good.
Mm. But it does take time, it does take attention, and it does take intention.
Mm, yeah.
And those things are in short supply nowadays.
But are they really in short supply? Or just we make them in short supply?
They're misused.
Yeah. Because it's the same. Time's the same. It's the same. We haven't changed the calendar or the clocks in a long time.
Yep. They're misused. And, you know, you can't, you just said care about people. I'm going to go a step further and say there's a difference between caring about somebody
Mm,
and caring for them.
yep.
It's very easy to care about people. It's very easy to say we care about people. We can do it from a distance. But to care for anything, whether you're caring for your RV or you're caring for a plant or you're caring for, I just got a new snake, you're
Oh
caring for
boy.
a pet snake, you have to understand it. You can't care for something you don't deeply understand. And you cannot care for a person you don't deeply understand. And you cannot understand a person without time, attention, and intention.
That's why I brought you on the show, my friend. And I could have saved you money on a snake, dude. I've been jumping over those things running down here in Florida all the time.
Ah, I know. And I got a python, by the way.
Well, they don't even like them in Florida. They're not supposed to
They
be
don't
here.
like them. I know. I know. They're not supposed to be here. But
Yeah.
my 7-year-old saved up his money for 4 months to get
Oh.
a snake. And he got a snake, set up the enclosure, got it all calibrated. But actually it's something really amazing because it wasn't just about getting the snake. It was about doing the work to understand what the snake needed. And I know it goes back to this, like you can't care for something you
Mm.
don't deeply understand. And then you have to calibrate stuff. Like he's over here checking temperatures, humidity levels. And I liken that to how we interact with human beings. We have to deeply understand them, what they need, what their preferences are. We have to see them. We have to understand the details of their lives in order to care for them. And I think that what you're talking about, what we just said about misusing time and attention, I think we've misused our time and attention to over focus on what we're doing, how we're doing it, and not focusing on why we're doing it, and who we're doing it with, who's around us.
Yeah, and I love the parallels you draw there because your son is learning that this snake's going to require a certain temperature, a certain amount of water, a certain food supply, but his brother doesn't. Right. So
Yes,
when he's with his
exactly.
brother, he needs to pay different attention. His brother's going to want different things from him. And I think that's one of the parallels I get from just even that story is when we're leading people and we want to treat everybody on a team like they're a snake. Well, not all of them need the same temperature or the same amount of water.
Yep.
And why do we do that? Because it's convenient for us as the leader to treat everybody the same because I just do it one way. But there's
Yep.
nobody, very few people on a team are going to thrive in that environment.
And you know how we get out of that? You know how we get out of the work of actually doing it, of noticing? We use labels.
Mm.
So that's a difficult person. That's a lazy person. That's a toxic employee, right? And the problem with labels is the moment you label somebody is the moment you stop seeking understanding. Because when you label something, your brain categorizes it, and your brain, without you even knowing it, says, my work's done here. We've categorized that. It's not a threat to me, so let's not devote any energy to it. So you actually deplete the energy resource you need to actually seek to understand that person. And usually when you label somebody, like that's a difficult person, that's a lazy person, that's an introvert, that's an extrovert, that's typically how you treat them. And then how you treat them is how they see themselves. And how they see themselves is how they act toward you. And the cycle continues.
Mm.
I think the most immediate way to be a better leader in life, and I mean leader, anybody who influences anybody, which is everyone, is to stop labeling people.
All right, let me ask you on that because we are a society that loves labels right now. Literally everything you do comes with a label, right? Like I was watching a commercial the other night, and I don't have TV very often, so when I see a commercial, I'm like, wow, what are these things, and why am I watching this? But it was literally a lady that didn't want to do laundry, didn't want to do the dishes, was just feeling blah. And the thing was like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're depressed. And I'm like, no, you really just don't want to do chores. Like, really, you just don't want, nobody wants to do laundry or dishes that I know. But again, we labeled it, right? Like, this is a behavior we labeled instead of like understanding, like, no, why do I feel this way? And I think,
Yeah.
I'd be curious, what are your thoughts? If I don't explore why I feel certain ways and I just label myself and I go, wouldn't my tendency then to be doing the same thing to everybody else?
Exactly. I mean, it's just so inaccurate to label yourself based on your behaviors because you're more than behavior. And what I mean by that is that when I'm coaching leaders, I say, instead of saying, hey, this is a difficult person, I say to yourself, this is a human being who's behaving in ways that I perceive as
Mm.
difficult.
Yeah.
Because then you have to take responsibility that you're part of the environment that could be manifesting the behaviors you say you don't want. One of my favorite coaches, his name is Jerry Colonna. He was an executive coach for years in Silicon Valley. I just got to be with him in New York a couple weeks ago. And he has this question. He says, how are you complicit in creating the behaviors you say you don't want?
Yep.
So when you say to yourself, I'm not a lazy person, I'm a person who's behaving in ways that I'm labeling as lazy. And when you do that, you start thinking, oh gosh, like what? Okay, what is manifesting that? You seek understanding. But if you just say, I'm a lazy person, I'm a bad person, I'm this, I'm that, then you've already categorized yourself and you're going to stop seeking understanding of yourself and the mental possible reasons and drivers of those behaviors. But when we do this to humans, we reduce them. And the result is they feel unseen, they feel unnoticed. And that's that's what is signaling that there's a this mattering deficit. More people than ever feel invisible, overlooked, ignored. And I think one reason why is we've taken the shortcut to evaluate people before we seek to understand them. And I guess you're right, including ourselves.
Yeah. And there's something you put in your book that I really love, and it says, hurry and care cannot coexist.
Yeah. I mean, you can't care for anything if you're in a hurry. If I don't have time set aside to go change the water of the snake and do all this stuff, it's gonna die. I mean, if I don't have time to go to the store, get its food, whatever it's gonna eat, it's gonna die. The same is true with human beings psychologically.
Yeah.
Um, again, understanding takes time. There are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts to understanding human beings. It takes time and attention.
Yeah.
And and that's the only way to build trust. So whether you're talking about a relationship, you're talking about a team, I mean, you cannot accomplish anything with another human being without trust. And researchers find that there are four major drivers of trust. One is people have to know that we care for them.
Right.
Care. The other one is competence. That's like we're going to show up and do what we do. The other one is consistency. And the other one is safety. And researchers find that all of those are impossible without the first one, care.
Yeah.
It does not matter how competent you are, how talented you are, how much you show up. People will not care if they don't feel cared for. What you say won't be significant to someone who doesn't feel significant to you.
Yeah. And here's what I love about it, Zach, is these studies have been around for a long time. So this isn't new.
No, 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 no. It's not new.
So why do we struggle so much with this? Why? Like I was reading in the book and then some of the other studies I looked at from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Like that's 50, 60 years old that we've known this data that people need to know they're cared for before they can do much else, right? That people are going to seek assurances that what they do matters before they're really going to know that they can contribute. How do we get it wrong so much that those, like you're saying, the statistics now where people are disengaged, don't know that they matter to anybody outside, are so high?
Well, we've been taught to acquire and achieve for ourselves. We've been rewarded. I mean, ever since we were in first grade, we were rewarded for getting a grade for ourselves. We've been socialized to believe that we should take care of ourselves. We should help ourselves. I mean, if I were to put up a graph for you of self-help books published and loneliness, anxiety, depression, they would go like this.
Really?
Yeah, and why is that? Well, it's because you can't spend all of your time actualizing yourself without building a community around you that will support you when time gets tough. Times get tough. So what we've done is we've created a whole generation of people trying to optimize and actualize themselves to the detriment of investing in actualizing the people around them, investing in the relationships with people around them to create the environment and the ecosystem that's going to support you when things get tough. Do you know what the number one predictor of resilience is?
Facing
It
tough
is
stuff
so
in the past.
from when social support.
Oh, sure.
Social support. One of the longest studies of resilience was a psychologist named Emmy Werner. She followed over 200 kids from birth through age 40 on a Hawaiian island. And she didn't do anything. She just measured them like over that whole period. And the number one predictor of resilience, despite all risk factors, whether it's poverty or difficult family life, those things didn't matter. What mattered is if you had somebody who believed in you, somebody who treated you as an important person, and somebody you could rely on.
That led them to.
Human endurance, right, requires human care. Like nobody listening right now would be here living and breathing if at some point in your life you hadn't mattered enough to someone so that person would keep you alive.
Right.
Literally, survival depends on caring for one another. And so what I think has happened is we've depleted that essential resource for resilience. There's other resources like self-belief, self-care, taking care of your mind, taking care of your body, toughness, grit, all of that. Those are all important. But resilience is very hard to come by on your own.
How do we get back to that, Zach? How do we get back to a society that empowers individuals to care for others more than they care for themselves?
But what do you think? First of all, what do you think? Do you think I'm wrong?
No, dude. No. Here's what I'm thinking. Right. So one of the things that's changed in our relationship is I've gotten into these trail runs. I love trail running now. Right. And I suck at it. So like by no means am I an expert at it. But I'm fascinated by running 100 miles by 200. I was just watching this 319-mile race over the weekend, Arizona 300. And I've been fortunate enough to kind of meet some people in the circles and talk with them. And you're 100% right. These people are out there running for 319 miles for, I think, the male winner was like 88 straight hours. The female was like 105 straight hours, something like that. And the first pictures you see when they finish is not them raising a trophy or touting. It's hugging and crying the people that ran with them, that met them at the aid stations. So no, dude, I think you're right. I think That's why
That is,
fighters
oh man, I love that. I mean, that gives me chills to think about that.
think
Just
of,
think about that.
well, what do you want? Like, you just finished one of the 319 miles is ridiculous to be able to do. You finished it. You've proven to yourself that you won't quit, that you are tough and you can get through it. And what you realized is you couldn't do it without them.
You also couldn't do it without the organizer. You couldn't do it without the
Right.
people scouting the trail. You couldn't do it without the Civilian Conservation Corps making the trail back during the Great Depression. You couldn't do it. This is it, man.
Yeah.
We are interdependent, and we have to reclaim our interdependence not as something that's soft, but something that makes us one of the most resilient species on the planet.
Do you think that's part of our problem is we are soft? So much of our life is cushy. We forget that behind these challenges is a whole team that we need. And until we face that challenge, we don't recognize what the need for the team.
Yeah, I think we've called the wrong thing soft. There's a military
Yeah.
psychologist in the 1960s that didn't know how to classify the relational skills that was leading to unit success in the army, and so he called them soft skills.
Mm.
And I wish he never did that. It was probably for a good intention, but what happens is when our brain sees something as soft or simple, our brain will devote less energy to it. And so we've called these things soft skills for the last half century plus. And so we've approached them with less rigor.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it'll just happen. My relationships will just happen. My team will just happen. Or, here, go take a supervisory course. So now you're a good leader. Or I'll promote you into a leadership position just because you were good at your job, but I won't teach you how to lead people. When we see something as soft or simple, we devote less energy to it. And I think, less than 2% of the world's population, for example, gets any formal education on listening well. There's a research study on this. So think about how much, like I can think about my kids in elementary school, how often they're getting to get the reps, right? We talk about physical
Yeah.
reps. Our kids also, and we ourselves are not getting the social reps necessary to build the skills to care for one another. Because there's another thing happening. Not only are we calling these skills soft, but the second thing that's happening is this thing.
Right.
Now here's this thing's not inherently bad, but what's bad about it is that it's allowed us to evade the very social situations that our ancestors relied on to learn how to care for one another. For example, since 2000, we've been able to send short text-based messages to one another. So if you give me some bad news now, I can do my civic duty and just send you a sad-faced emoji and say, hey, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
This episode is brought to you by Brenda Rice, a dedicated local realtor in Northern Colorado. Having known Brenda for over 20 years, I can vouch for her hard work and dedication while watching her transition from a police career into real estate. Brenda has teamed up with Shelley Borman from Loan Depot to create a tailored first responder program, making home buying in Northern Colorado easier and more affordable than ever. Special incentives are available to our listeners. For more details, reach out to Brenda at Brenda Rice Co. Realtor on Instagram or click the link in our show notes. Right.
I don't have to sit with you
Yeah.
in the discomfort, seek understanding, offer compassion, practice empathy. If you tell me some good news, I can just say, hey, proud of you, bud. I don't have to sit with you and say, Jerrod, I've been following you for like 10 years. I've noticed that like you've persevered every single day. You showed up every day, and I'm really proud of that. These are skills. And the less we're in situations where we use those skills, the less proficient we get at them. So I think we're also at a skills deficit for caring. And then I'm just going to add one more thing to my little rant here,
I love
which
it.
is that which is that our children have grown up, and Gen Z and whatever are not for any fault of their own, are now leading teams without these social reps. So, and here's what we're seeing. 1 out of 3 people are persistently lonely. This is despite the fact that the average person sends 30 to 40 text-based messages a day. We're more connected than ever, actually, but we're lonelier than ever.
Right.
That's because the quantity of interactions doesn't matter when it comes to reducing loneliness. The quality does. We're more disengaged than ever at work. This is despite the engagement industry becoming a $1 billion industry. There are over 100 surveys to measure engagement. There are over 1,000 coaches on LinkedIn telling you that they are going to increase your engagement. We have programs and platforms. We have programs and platforms. Yet, two data points should stick out to you. 40% of people said that they didn't have someone at work that cared about them as a person. 30% said that they didn't have someone that saw their unique potential.
Mm.
So what are we really facing here? It's a crisis of the skills for caring for one another. It's a mattering deficit.
Yeah, which leads us to your book coming out in May, The Power of Mattering, and how we can start to shift that a little bit, right? And I just, it's funny because being out on the road and having, I guess here's something for you, Zach, is being on the road, I have so much more control of my time. I don't have a calendar packed full of I gotta be. And as soon as I'm done, I don't have traffic jams to deal with. I don't have siren. I don't have all these exterior noises. So I really get to be. And one of the things I noticed over we're finishing our 4th year of living on the road now, is when I get to meet somebody, I'm genuinely interested because I don't get to meet people every day anymore. I don't take for granted that somebody's going to be walking the same road I am every single day because they live next door to me and they go to work at the same time I do or come home from work. And that's one of the things I really try to challenge people is get curious again, right? Get curious. Why did our paths cross today? Maybe it crossed because you're supposed to teach me something if I listen. Or maybe I'm supposed to teach you something if I'm paying attention and I say, how you doing today, Zach? And you say, good. And I go, nah, that doesn't sound good, Zach. What's going on, buddy? Like, why don't we grab a cup of coffee or something? Let's really talk for a second. Like, if we just take time to talk to people. And then the ironic thing is when you teach classes and people say, man, the energy just feels good. It feels good to be here. And I go, you know why that is? Because we put all the other shit aside and we just focus on each other for a minute. And we listen.
Right.
And we realize that behind the title, behind the uniform, behind whatever it is that label that separates us and makes us different in our jobs is the exact same thing. It's a human being that wants to know what they do is important. They want to feel valued, and they want to know when they speak, people are going to listen. And like you said, actually care that they're there.
Yeah. And you said, like, what do we do? Well, we have to recognize that we need to relearn these skills. And we have to recognize that it's hard. It takes work.
Yeah.
It's simple. It arises, the opportunity arises in simple everyday ways, but it takes work. I mean, for example, uh, if your delivery driver comes and drops off a package, right? You have two choices to make, and you see them. You can wait for them to leave, look out your window, right? Answer another email, whatever you're doing if you work from home. Or you can open the door and just look them in the eye and say, "Hey, I didn't catch your name. What's your name?" And engage in that way, right? That takes sacrifice. You have to sacrifice your own comfort. And it takes a habit to do that. You may not want to do that, right? But oftentimes motivation follows action, not the other way around.
Right.
Right? Like if you want to start like working out, the best research-based advice is to set a timer for 10 minutes and go walk for 10 minutes and then just stop walking after 10 minutes. Because what will happen is your brain will be like, wait a minute, I could do more than that. I don't want to stop. But make yourself stop, especially the first week. And maybe I can do 15 minutes. I can do 20 minutes. Same is true with these skills and habits to care. I think we have to think about our process of caring for others as habits and skills that we can learn by doing them.
Yeah, making them a priority again, right? Like you were
Right.
talking about technology earlier. Like, drives me nuts. You share something that requires a celebration with somebody, and you get a thumbs up emoji, right? You don't even get a word,
Yeah.
literally a thumbs up, and you're like, oh man, and it's. I don't think it's that hard. Maybe I'm naive, but I don't think it's that hard to just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to pay attention to people around me today. I'm just going to try. Maybe I'm just going to pick one person. When I'm in the grocery store, I'm going to pay attention to the clerk. I'm just going to be nice to the clerk. Start there.
You know what starts happening is you start seeing how you matter. Because what you'll do is you start talking to that person, you start asking about their life, you see how they respond to you. That routine of going to the grocery store is all of a sudden a moment of meaning in your day,
Mm.
right? It's a moment where you can see how you matter to someone else. One piece of advice I have for everybody here is advice that I try to use with myself because I teach what I need to hear the most. I research what I struggle with the most, but I know is important. And I'm the nicest person in the world when I'm out walking my dog. I think about all the people I should thank, the notes I should write, the people I should check in on, and then I get back to my desk and I got to get this done. I got to get that done.
Yeah.
Got to get this done. And if I don't put it at the top of my to-do list, if I don't literally write it on my to-do list or put it on my calendar, I won't do it. So schedule your good intentions.
Yeah. I agree.
That's a good way to start. Like most of us don't want to be we don't wake up being like, I'm going to be an uncaring person or leader
Mm.
today. I think
No.
that what we do is we leave it to chance.
Yep. We leave it to chance, and we're not intentional with it. So then the world kind of takes over on its demands of our time before we prioritize.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
One of the things I wanted to explore with you, Zach, is something I didn't know until I read the book, and that's the story of your second son, Jax. And there's a quote in there that I highlighted, and I've thought on this for a couple of days now, and that was, you thought as you were dealing with him that you can change the way you see you, right?
Mm.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about that and how you got to that point?
Yeah. So Jax, he's my 7-year-old. He was born with a facial difference. So he has a condition he does not have eyelid muscles and his eyes are noticeably smaller. I mean, and he's had to have he's going on 4 surgeries, right, to get that replaced. So he looks different. I mean, he physically looks different to people. And, people will look and they'll stare and they'll, say, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with your eyes? Well, there's the kid with the weird eyes, right? But there's a book, it's based on the book Wonder by R.J. Palacio. And there's a fictional character. His name is Augie Pullman, and he has a facial difference. And he's navigating this book, and it's a book made for families. And at the end, he says, I can't change the way I look, but maybe you can change the way you see. And I think that that's the call for right now. I mean, that's what I've learned through him is that it's not him. He doesn't have to change.
Mm.
He doesn't have to change the way he appears to one another. He has nothing to hide. It's us who change the way we see. It's we who can change how we show up for one another.
Yeah.
And that's what we have direct control over. And again, if you just look at even that story of my son and you think from this traditional self-help perspective, oh wow, what an inspiration he is. Like, he should just toughen up and he's getting all this toughness and resilience and I'm going to be myself. No, we have to make a society that makes it a little less damn hard for him to be himself.
Yeah. And I loved how when I was reading that, because our son, Andrew and I's son, had speech impediments and stuff when he was younger, and that was a long, hard process. And I can't tell you how amazing the professionals in Fort Collins were.
Yes, yes. Talk about mattering, right?
Right, because you're looking as a parent, you're like, I don't know what this leads to. Like, will we ever get over this, or is this something he's going to deal with forever? And I loved what you said in the book, and it resonated with us because we always wanted to make sure he knew how special he was. Like he couldn't control how everybody else looked at him or talked, but he can control how he saw himself.
Yeah, exactly. But how someone sees themselves is a direct reflection of how you see them
Yeah,
and the evidence that you present to them. So it's called our self-concept. It's the beliefs we hold of ourselves.
right.
And one of the best ways to build someone's self-concept is to give them evidence in their environment that they are significant for who they are. And so, I mean, that's what you did. You helped him see yourself, but it wasn't just helping him see himself. It was you gave him repeatable evidence of his significance. So he started believing that. So if you're getting more of that evidence than you're not, so say in your environment where someone's like, what's wrong with you? That will be an outlier to you.
Right.
Right. As a person, you'll be like, oh, that's not, no. What you say, that's not who I, that's why you hear those people who say, that's your opinion. That's not who I am. I guarantee people who say that have people in their lives who repeatedly show them the evidence of their significance. Right. They have
Yeah.
and it's called secure attachment as a child. And this transfers into our lives. So when one of my favorite things, one of the things I know when I go to a house of a friend and they have kids, I can tell right away, based on my background in psychology, if there's a healthy relationship going on. And the one way I can tell is if their kids are loud in front of them.
Okay.
If their kids are loud, if their kids misbehave in front of the parents. And the reason why that's important is because it signals that they already feel that they matter to their parents, that they're seen, that they're enough, that they're cared for. And they know that even if they screw up, that secure base is not going to be threatened. Um, and that's what's called secure attachment. So when people feel that they have that as children, they can go out, experiment, take risks, and learn because they know someone has their back. Now, have you heard of you're in the team-based learning
Yeah.
sector. You've heard of psychological safety,
Yep.
right? People have to be able to speak up, make mistakes, share. Well, people, psychological safety is just adult attachment.
Right.
It's it's having a leader or someone in my life that has my back. So I can go up, experiment, screw up because I have someone who has my back. And that's also where true confidence is developed. We don't get confidence just on our own. And this goes back to our sons and my son. We don't get confidence on our own. We get confidence because I know someone has my back.
Yep.
I know that I can go out and into this messy world and someone has my back. I mentioned earlier I met with the commander of the Blue Angels. And one of their key priorities, their principles, is to fail together.
Yep.
Fail together. Like we fail together. No one individual fails. No one individual makes a mistake. When one individual makes a mistake, we all make the mistake. And that is that secure attachment feeling that you already matter so you can go out and try new things and have that confidence. And I think that's what you did with your son.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it as smartly as that. I just knew that we were gonna have a kid that believed in himself, and that we're all different, right? Like we all have things that are unique about us, and that was one of the tenets of us raising our kids is we were gonna say like we're all unique, and that is our strength, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
if we were all the same, that's a pretty boring world.
Yes. And, when you're in a relationship, being able to show someone that uniqueness, not just tell them that, hey, you're unique and you matter, but showing them exactly how they matter is really important.
And I love that. Expand on that for a second, Zach, because I think our community needs to hear that, right? Not just saying, "Hey, I appreciate what you did yesterday," or "It's good to have you here," but being specific.
Yeah. I'll go into, so I want you to think about a moment where you most believe that you mattered as a person to someone else. Think about what comes to mind. For a listener, what are you thinking about? Chances are you're thinking not about a big action. You're not thinking about getting your direct deposit. You're not thinking about a big award. You're probably thinking about just small interactions. And that's what we find in our research, that the experience of mattering, of feeling significant to another person happens in moments, very small moments. And there are three characteristics of those moments that we found. When we ask people this question, when they feel noticed, when they feel seen and heard,
Yep.
when they feel affirmed, and when they feel needed by others. And what you're talking about is feeling affirmed. And feeling affirmed is knowing how our uniqueness makes a unique difference. It's different than appreciation or recognition, right? And I work with organizations a lot, and their organization will be like, well, we have an appreciation program, right? Appreciation is showing general gratitude for who someone is. Recognition is showing general gratitude for what someone does, but affirmation is showing someone how their specific Unique gifts make a specific, unique impact. So if you're going to thank somebody, instead of just saying good job or thank you, say, hey, here is the unique gifts that I observed. Here is the unique perspective that you brought. Here's the unique impact that you had. Here's the unique wisdom I saw that you brought. And here's the difference it made for me. And being relentless in showing people what I call the indisputable evidence of their significance.
Yeah.
Right? Showing them how they matter. One, we like the national parks. I'm
Yep.
sure you do too, as someone who's on the road. One of my clients was the National Park Service, and there was a facilities manager who had really high morale compared to all the other parks. And I got to go out and observe what he was doing. And he supervised facilities maintenance folks, so really inhospitable conditions in the western part of the United States in these parks. They're cleaning bathrooms, they're repairing bridges, and there's millions of visitors coming to these parks. And he had really high morale at his park. And I asked him what was going on. And he goes, I just one practice on Friday. I send an email. And in that email, I include pictures that I took that week of projects that my team worked on and visitors using those projects. If it was a bridge that was repaired, I send a picture of the visitors walking over that bridge. If it was a bathroom that was reopened, I send a picture of the shorter line for the bathroom, now that there's two bathrooms. And all he writes is, look what you did. Mm. And he sends a look what you did email every Friday. And what I love about that is, again, you're giving some of the indisputable evidence of their significance. No one on his team could say, no, I don't really do anything worthwhile.
Right.
No. Look at the picture in your inbox. There's visitors walking on a bridge that wouldn't be there if you didn't do your job this week. And I think that's a skill, right? That's an example of affirmation, of showing people the difference they make.
And I love that because that shifts the responsibility. One of the things that drives me nuts, Zach, is when I hear from leaders that they believe it's the employee's responsibility to be motivated, to understand the value they bring. And I do the same thing. I laugh and go, that's your job. Your sole job is to make sure people thrive. That's it.
And you know what? When they you're never, again, I say this all the time. You cannot expect something to matter to someone if they don't believe that they matter to you.
Yeah.
Think about the last time you devoted your energy to someone that you did not feel that you mattered to.
Doesn't happen.
It does not happen. I mean, it's a basic natural law. And so a lot of leaders want the side effects, want the lagging indicators without pursuing the leading indicator, which is care, which is showing people their significance, right? One of the things that we've been doing wrong in workplaces and on teams is for so long, for 50 years, we've expected people to care before they feel cared for. We expect that people will add value before they feel valued. But the opposite is true. People should not be valued because they add value. They have to feel valued in order to add value.
And I think that's the slope we slide down, especially I'll talk about law enforcement, is people are usually hired through a rigorous screening process. So they don't accidentally end up there. They come in the door. They're excited to be there. They think their work matters, right? Like they're making a difference to their community. They have all this natural energy. They're bringing it a lot of times. And then as their career progresses, sometimes the reality sets in. Maybe the community, maybe they're watching the news or whatever, and things turn and they start to question, does this matter anymore? Is what I'm doing making a difference? And our leaders don't step in to reaffirm and to bring them back to, hey, how did you get here? Instead, we compare them to the new people who are exactly like this person used to be. They're excited. They're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. They're going to make a difference. They're going to solve every case in the world. And then guess what? 5-6 years later, they slide over here. And then they're the disgruntled employee. We focus on the new people again instead of going, wait, what is the system? If this was the truth in the 90s, and this was the tendency in the 2000s, and this is the trend in the 2010s, and it's still a trend, that's not an individual problem. That's a system problem.
Yes. And I would say this, especially for any law enforcement folks listening, that's an inherently high purpose job, right? I mean, it's very clear. Very important point. There is a difference between having a job that matters and experiencing mattering in your job.
This episode is brought to you by Erie Coffee Roasters. Our ethically sourced coffee is not just a drink, it's a commitment to quality and sustainability. Erie Coffee Roasters' online subscription service makes it easy to enjoy fresh coffee delivered right to your door. Use code ONPURPOSE at eriecoffeeroasters.com for 10% off your first order, or join us at our Erie Coffee Roasters Cafe in Frederick, Colorado, where every cup tells a story. Discover your new favorite brew today.
Having a job that matters, why you got into the field is not enough to sustain motivation. I see this in healthcare, in education, in law enforcement, in the military, all of these jobs that have a high purpose but low mattering, right? So I can have a job that matters but not experience that I matter to you in my job every day. And interactions, daily interactions, will always trump a big purpose when it comes to meaning making.
Yeah. And
We
that,
make meaning based on how we're treated every day.
we just lose sight of that. We lose sight. We focus so much on, oh, I got to be ready for this big thing to happen. When this big thing happens, man, we're going to perform, and that's the reward. And there was a quote I came across last week that I really liked, and that said, "Leadership is in the outputs, not the outcomes."
Mm,
Right, which goes back to what you said. Leadership is an outputs. The output for me as a leader is, how do I greet you today? Do I check in? Do I remember your kid had a
right.
softball game over the weekend? Do I remember you got an anniversary coming up, so maybe you should get off a little early today to get home for your wife? Like, I remember little things like that's the outputs.
Mm,
And sometimes we get tricked, right? Because we can have a dysfunctional team that creates a good outcome, and we think, well, we're fine. We had a good outcome. And not what I say is, well, even a shitty football team wins a game every now and then. Right? Like, even a bad team
right.
wins a game. It doesn't mean they're a good team. They're still dysfunctional.
Right.
But when we focus our leadership on outcomes and not outputs, I think that's what goes to what you're saying. We're missing the details. We're
Yeah.
missing actually making a difference in people's lives, which, if I'm simple, if I boil it down to what is my job in the world, I'd say it's to make a difference in the people I come across in their lives, period.
Here's a good question just to think about for everybody listening, especially if you're a leader, but we're all leaders because we all influence people. Um, in your relationships on your teams, how much of your time is spent extracting people's energy? Do this, don't do that. Send me this report, go on this task. And how much of your time is spent regenerating their energy? Right? And you'll very quickly see we tend to spend all of our time extracting people's energy without the tangible skills to regenerate the energy we need them to do the things we say we want them to do. And this, I think, is the core problem with most teams right now, is that leaders aren't doing the things that regenerate people's energy because they're quote unquote soft, or which are the very things, right? Again, human energy. Everything in an organization is an outcome of human energy.
Right. Yeah, you can't think of one thing that they produce that doesn't require your
No.
energy.
So what's the state of an energized person? Even for the most skeptical person listening here, they'll say, "Oh, they should be motivated. They should feel like what they do matters. They should feel like they have a role to play." Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how do we get back to that? What would you say if somebody's like, okay, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna try to re-energize my team? What are a couple
Yep.
simple things they can start doing tomorrow?
All right. First thing is notice people. Right. I'm gonna walk you through these three things. Notice people. The quickest thing you can do is just remember the details of people's lives and ask better questions. So go beyond the "how are you?" "How's it going?" "What's up?" Right? I see leaders on teams do briefings and the leader will say, "How's everybody doing? Good?" Right? Imagine if you weren't good. Would you be like, "Hey, not me, not me," or "Hey, I hope you're doing well." Well, if I'm not doing well, the last thing I need is your hope.
Right.
Right? So go beyond the greeting. Ask questions like, "What is your attention today? What have you been thinking about most today?" What's been most meaningful to you today? What's been most challenging to you today? How can I help? How can I support you? One leader I worked with would just ask, like, what are you not getting from me today that you need?
Mm,
And that's a powerful question, right?
right.
Just every day. So go beyond. I mean, ask better questions. The second is remember what you heard and check in.
Yep.
If you someone's working on a difficult case and you knew they were struggling with something, instead of just sitting there that week, the week after, and saying to yourself, I hope they figured that out. Say, hey, I just remembered when we talked last week that you were really struggling with that. I wanted to see how that was going for you. There's magic in being remembered. So start there. I mean, those are simple things. The second is anytime you say thank you or good job this next week, go one step further and just show people the difference they make and how they make it.
Yeah.
So name someone's unique gifts. Like say, hey, this is what I saw in you, and this is the difference it made. If you see someone's effect, like if you see the downstream effect, the ripple effect of their work, take the time to show them. All right. Good leaders tell people that they matter. Great leaders show people exactly how they matter.
Mm.
And then I would say the last thing is to show people how they're needed. Think about someone right now that you rely on your team, in your life. Now think about the last time you explicitly told them, right? Oftentimes we know we rely on people, but we don't tell them. So my favorite 5 words to encourage leaders to use is if it wasn't for you. Right? To tell someone on your team, hey, I just want to let if it wasn't for you, what we're doing here would not be possible.
Zach, dude, I love our time together, man. I'm going to tell you, if it wasn't for you, I would not know near as much about purpose and mattering. And quite honestly, I wouldn't pay as much detail to the small things I choose to say or when I choose to
Mm.
be quiet without your guidance. So I want to thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, and you too. I mean, you are you're clearly paying attention to this stuff,
But I'm not going to
and
let you off the hook.
clearly care about this stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, I care, dude. I want to learn, right? I want to be like Zach when I grow up. But there's one thing though that I've been holding back for you. We didn't even do a warm up because you just came in on fire. You were ready to go. I don't know if you
Oh,
remember the
sorry.
format. No, I love it. I love it because and it's good for our listeners to see I'm flexible, right? I'm not just in like leading Zach today. I gotta be flexible. But Zach, episode 200 turned a new leaf from 100 Zach to 200 Zach. So I got to ask the same question for 300 Zach because I want to gauge where you're at right now in your life, my friend.
Yeah.
You get one food on a deserted island. We're going to close the show with this. You get a food on a deserted island. What is Zach Mercurio on
I
episode
know.
300 going to eat this
I
time?
know what I said last time. I think I said chicken wings, right?
Well, you've been on 3 times. This is your third
I
go at
think I
it.
did. I said like chicken wings. I don't know why. One food,
On a deserted island. This is what Zach's living and thriving on. What are you choosing? Episode 300, Zach. What does he choose?
one food. It's not even possible to have what like to live on one food. I guess I would. My gosh, I think I would pick now avocados.
Oh, avocados.
Here's why.
Yeah.
Bunch of them.
Yeah.
You get good fat content, keep you going. But then you also can plant them if you're on an island.
Yeah. And grow more.
Maybe grow some avocado trees.
Yeah.
And then if they go bad, you could probably entice some like little like rats or something that you could then eat.
Yeah.
So maybe 300 episodes, Zach's a little more resourceful, a little less pleasure focused, because I think I said like chicken wings the first time.
Well,
And this
interestingly,
is the maturity, I guess. Like, you grow up.
well, I don't know how to take this, to be honest, Zach, because episode 100, Zach did not hesitate. He took chicken wings with all the fixing. He was committed. He was going. Episode 200, Zach hesitated a little bit and then wanted oatmeal with dried fruit. He went healthy.
Yeah.
And now episode 300 isn't even sure he can live on one food, right? So now we're starting to see the maturity in you. Now you're even questioning, is one food enough to sustain you? So now you're
Yeah. Look,
planting.
I went from pleasure to fad, eat oatmeal, eat
Yeah.
something healthy, to Pragmatism, practicality.
Sustainability, man. It's the name of the game nowadays. Zach, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Where can our audience grab the new book, The Power of Mattering, and support you and be part of this journey to make sure that people around us know they matter, at least for the moments that we're in front of them?
Listen, it's no small thing to invest money into a book or any product. So go to www.powerofmattering.com, powerofmattering.com. And if you want to learn more about how to do this, order the book. But if you want to learn more about mattering and get some stuff right away, just go over to this mattering section on the website, and there's all sorts of free resources that you can use right now. But if you can buy the book, it's appreciated. It helps spread the word. And more importantly, I mean, I think that you can listen to an hour podcast, or you can really sit with something and dig into it. And there's a lot to dig into and chew on in the book. And so I'd recommend it. And then let me know what you think.
And I'll tell you guys, the community out there, I have the first book that I've read probably 5 times. It's highlighted up. I've shared that with other leaders. The Power of Mattering. I'm getting to pre-read it. It's an honor to be part of that team, Zach. Thank you so much. And I can't recommend that enough to you. And when I show up and I tell our team, like, support this, get behind this, this is something that can change your life, I mean it. And Zach is one of those guys, and what he puts out is definitely things that will make your world a better place. Zach, thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Thank you.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.